Hi everyone, I wanted to show you the process of making my new headpiece, so I hope you enjoy the video. For a tutorial on how I made the model to make my latex headpiece on, see part 1. It'll have step-by-step instructions on how I made the model to make my latex headpiece. Step 1 is get you some baby powder and a brush and just dust it all over. This is going to help keep the latex from sticking to the mold when you go to pull it off at the end. So I used a lot of baby powder just in case. Something I learned from making this specific color headpiece was that to skip the first base layer of clear latex only, because sometimes latex dries a little bit yellow and that can affect something that you're going to make white. So I would suggest skipping that part. Here is where I make my blue layer. So I mix these color paints, they are acrylics, in with my latex. It's about 3/4 latex and 1/4 of it is paints. Mostly blue, a little bit of black, a little bit of gray. And then I mix it very well. So latex dries, it dries darker than it looks wet. So you always want to do a test spot to make sure that the color you want is going to be what it looks like when it's dry. So after my test spot, I saw that it was the blue shade that I wanted. So now I'm starting to fill in all of the spots that I want blue. Ahsoka's blue stripes. Doing the blue layer is probably the hardest part because this is where you don't want to mess up on your line work, because this is going to be the top layer that you see on your headpiece. So make sure you take your time. I'm just using a regular small paintbrush, and you can fill in the wider spots with a wider brush if you'd like, or a sponge. So this is 5 layers later of blue latex and paint acrylic. Always make sure your first layer is completely dry before you start on a second layer. All right, now it's time to make the white. So I got my white acrylic paint. I'm going to add a touch of black so it's not so bright, stark white. And my latex. This is the type I like to use. It's nice and thick. You don't have to add any thickeners to it. It just works amazing. I do not recommend using the thin, watery type of latex. Use the cream latex, it works much better. So here I'm doing my test spot for white, making sure that the shade looks like I want it to when it's dry. And it does. So now we're ready to add the white. I'm just using a regular cheap sponge that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm doing a patting motion all over the headpiece. And if only it was that easy, you could just snap your fingers and be done. Alright, so there's my first layer of white. And you notice I covered the blue, I covered all of it. And we're going to keep adding white until no yellow or blue shows through. So now adding my second layer of white. This is the type of motion I use to add it with my sponge. I think it works really good. And this is my second layer of white. So you'll keep going until there's no blue or whatever color your mold is showing through. Alright, after my third layer of white, I think it's looking pretty good. I don't see any yellow. If a hint of blue shows through, it's not that big of a deal. The important part is to make sure that anywhere that white is going to be on my headpiece, there's no yellow showing through, which is why you use opposite colors for your mold. It makes it much easier. Alright, now that I've done all my layers of white, Now I can just go ahead and go crazy with the layers of latex. So this is latex alone, no paints mixed with it. And you can brush it on, you can pat it on, whatever is easiest for you. I'm going to be making quite a few layers of just latex alone. So you don't want to make them too thick, that way it can cure in enough time for you to do your next layer. I made my headpiece during the winter, so I made sure that I heated up the room that I was working in so that it would dry faster. And I also used a hairdryer sometimes on some of the thicker parts so that it would dry faster. As you can see, the more latex you add, the more yellowish it looks, kind of like a rubber glove. But none of that will matter because all of this is going to be the inside once we flip it inside out. Alright, so here at my 7th layer is where I'm adding the mesh. Some people call it power mesh. I got my stretchy 4-way mesh fabric from Hobby Lobby. I cut it into pieces. And then I covered the headpiece as I went with those small little sections. I'd put some latex down, put down the mesh, put some more latex on top of it. And this is just going to strengthen it so that it doesn't tear when we go to take it off the mold at the end. So I'm using my cream latex mold builder, dabbing it on the headpiece. And then I'm going to put my 4-way stretch mesh over top. This works great as a reinforcement. So same technique, I'm using my sponge, soaking it in the latex, and then patting it onto the headpiece. Making sure it's nice and coated. This layer will probably be the one that takes the longest to dry. So after your headpiece kind of looks like the mummy, you know you're good. So I added another layer of latex over the mesh, letting it completely dry. Then adding my 9th layer of latex. Eleventh layer. My last layer I made extra thick and gave it a whole day to dry. Alright guys, it's time to baby powder this thing. Got a little bit of anxiety. I've spent countless hours making this and I'm so worried that something's going to happen to it when I try and take it off the mold. But I'm going to baby powder it and say a prayer and hope that nothing happens. I'm being generous with the baby powder here because when I peel it off the mold, I don't want it to stick to itself when I turn it inside out. Alright, so I have baby powdered everything. Like, went crazy with the baby powder. I don't want it sticking to itself. So here we go. We're going to take it off and see what happens. Find out if I'm going to have to break the hot glue molds that I did here or if it's just going to come off easy and stretch over. I don't know, you guys. So I'm starting with peeling up the layers around where my face is going to go first. So I'm just taking my time, peeling them up. Baby powdering again inside. When you start to use your hands to break the seal, make sure you don't have on any jewelry. I highly recommend taking your time, being patient, working the baby powder in there to make it easier on you. Alright, I took a break because trying to get this thing off of here is like working with resistance bands, if that makes sense. It's so strong. Like, I'm pretty sure I did plenty of layers, so I hope it doesn't tear as I'm trying to take it off, but I worked my hands all up underneath it as best as I could, and I think I'm at a point where I'm gonna have to try and peel it up and try rolling it back to be able to get the rest of it off, because I can't stick my hands any further down in here like this. Alright, so here we go. Oh, I pray it doesn't tear. The hardest part is done, getting it over the montrails, and then it comes off a lot easier. And I'm happy that I didn't have to break my mold where I did the hot glue, and that I could just work it out over the leku. A little bit of paint came off on it, but it's acrylic, so it'll just wash right off. That's what the yellow is. Alright, she's all washed off now. And I have a couple of things I think I would do differently next time. Number one, from everything that I read, they said you should do a clear latex layer on your inside out model first. I am not going to do that if I do another one. I'm going to skip that part, and I think that's what made my blue turn out so light colored, which is not a huge deal. I'm going to go through and like add some shading and do stuff like that anyway. I do really love how the texture turned out. It's like, it's just soft and like skin. It's like really, really nice. I'm so excited. And I already know the shape is amazing. I like that. I will work on next stuffing it, and once I have it stuffed and wearable, then I will work on shading the colors, and next time I will skip that first layer of latex and maybe go a little bit darker than I plan to on my test colors. But I think that's it. I think this is going to be great, and I'm so excited. I am just over the moon that I did not tear it taking it off the mold. I was stressing so bad about that, and it worked out, so I'm so glad. And I didn't even have to break away the parts that I hot glued, but I did have that available just in case. So I will probably reinforce those now that I know that they don't need to come off, that the latex will stretch enough. And when I do my next one, this will be Ahsoka 4.0. 4.0. This is my fourth headpiece. Yay! So after I washed it and let it dry and it sat for the weekend, the colors kind of changed. They aren't like they were when I pulled it off of the sculpt. So actually the blue looks a little bit different now and it looks better. But there is some white I'm going to have to touch up, or some of it is, you can see like the thicker layers of latex, like right here. I'm going to have to touch that up with white when I'm finished stuffing it, but I don't know why that happened or why it changed after the fact, but hey, it's a happy accident, I guess, because now I don't have to worry about white being mixed in here with the blue. We're touching that part up. So next, we are going to stuff it. Alright, I got some stuffing in her, and she's looking pretty good so far. Put some rice in the ends. She's nice and jiggly and soft. I think once I glue a headband in here to secure it, to finish my crown, and touch up these yellow spots with some paint, she'll be good to go. So exciting. I'm so happy with how it turned out. And it's really light and comfortable. Alright, I'm really happy with the weight. I'm happy with how I'm able to turn my head more than I could in any of my foam headpieces. And I'm really happy with the way the shape turned out. Alright, so I'm taking a wig grip and I am super gluing it in. And just be careful if you're using super glue because it can make latex really stiff. I'm only using this where the crown is going to go to hide it. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me through that really long video. It was definitely a process, a ton of work, countless hours, but I feel like it was worth it. So I hope you enjoyed. Bye, and may the force be with you.